everyone, and welcome to episode 37 of the Fifth Meeple Board Game Podcast. We are a group of diverse friends who offer our takes on the latest and greatest board games to hit our table. I'm your host, Daniela, the goofy noob, and I'm joined today by the collector.
Hey, this is David.
The intellectual introvert.
Hi, everybody. This is Chris.
And the Deluxeifier.
You got Pete here. Thanks for listening.
Okay, on today's special episode, we're confessing all current major crushes. And yes, we're back to our cardboard crushes episode. We have added a little extra deluxifying spice to our potion, Pete. So we'll have to see if our concoction works or blows up in our face. We're talking about all the little sparks flying right before we fall head over heels for such games, or maybe we swerve on them after a few goes. Let's get to swooning. Grab your cardboard crush and nestle up on the couch for this one. But before we start divulging our secrets, David, what's our topic of discussion for today?
Yeah, so we're just going to kind of go back in time and we're going to go look at our New Year's resolutions from last year and kind of say, hey, do we get them or do we not? And also if we have any for this year. So I don't know if anybody wants to kick it off, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'll start. I had 5 resolutions that we went through last time. One was simply to attend at least one convention in the year. David and I went to Origins together, so that was an easy one. I wanted to play 30 games that are new to me. That was sort of a softball because I knew I was going to be able to do that. I played 92 games last year that I had not played before. Origins certainly helped with that, but this podcast helps a lot with that as well. I had on there to complete a board game 20 by 5. I managed to do that. This is one that made me decide that I actually wasn't going to do New Year's resolutions this year because towards the end of the year, I just got to where, okay, I want to complete this 20 by 5. And as a result, I'm playing games that maybe I didn't want to play at that point in time, which I think is kind of silly. If you have a hobby you enjoy, then play what you enjoy, not what you feel compelled to do. I wanted to increase my H index to 15 and what your H index is how many games have you played? Like you played X games X number of times. So if there's 10 different games, I've played 10 different times, my H index is 10. If I played 11 games 11 times, my H index is 11. My index was 15, or it was 14, excuse me. At the time I said I want to get it up to 15. I'm actually sitting one play away from 18 right now. So, I managed to maneuver that pretty well. And then the last one was the toughest one. Add no more than 12 new games to my collection. I actually bought 11. So from that standpoint, I did fine. I think I didn't count expansions or something like that. And then I was gifted 3 as well. So 14 games were added to my collection. I only bought 11. The first one was Archipelago. I haven't been able to convince these guys to play with me yet. A lot of the other ones are games that either we played together, or we talked about or something along those lines. Archipelago was one I actually had heard on a different board game podcast and I'd always wanted to try it. But so far I've only played it myself multi-handed, which with a semi-co-op is kind of weird.
All right, I guess I'll go next. So some of my goals, one of them was to download the BG Stats app, which I did, and I've actually had really fun tracking these along the way. I've had the guys help me kind of just figure out where different things are on this. I like to know like where we played, and really just all the different wins and how long it took us to play a game. Really, I mean, we go back and forth and it's kind of fun to see them. My obviously wins streak is horrific, but that's okay. Kind of goes along with one of my other goals was to learn to lose with a better attitude.
Didn't make that one, huh?
I think I've done better, but it is a little bruising to come week after week and get decimated. So I guess we can keep working on that. But I feel like I've been in a little bit better attitude. Maybe the guys feel differently, but, really another one was to just keep learning new games. And really that's a tough task to come week after week and learn a whole new game, but I'm trying and I'm still enjoying it. I really like to be here with this group. Honestly, I look forward to this a lot more than I used to. I know that may sound weird because usually you kind of fall out of love with things like that. But for me, this has been, just an adventure. It's fun to see the comments and the interactions and learning new things. Even when you don't like the mechanisms or mechanics of a game, it's just something to keep pushing forward to. And really it keeps your mind sharp. And then really the other one was to learn and use Board Game Arena. I absolutely did not do that. So that I completely did not do. I think I've
You
played.
signed up for it, but you haven't played for like 10 months.
you gotta
or something.
you gotta pay to play games. I'm not paying to play these games.
Yeah.
And I honestly do not enjoy playing solo or by myself. I want to sit with the group. I want to talk through the game. Whenever I'm learning a new game, I really want to sit and I want to talk through that first game, even if everybody else has played it, because that helps me learn what everybody else is doing. And then after that first play, then I want to go into game 2 and really start to strategize. So
you can join my brother and me if you want sometime.
Hello.
We play every week on BGA.
When?
He lives in New York and I'm in Ohio, and that's how we connect once a week.
all right.
So Wednesday evenings.
What's his name?
DJ. Dean Jr.
Shout out DJ. David, how about your goals?
Yeah, I must have been on drugs when I wrote these goals last year, just looking at them. I wanted to play 400 games. I got to 328, so
Jeez.
close. I mean, I forgot how much a kid would affect that, so didn't factor a kid in this at
The
all.
nerve.
I wanted to play 180 new games. I played 148 new games last year.
Wow.
So that's
a lot.
That was pretty good. But again, didn't hit that goal either. I wanted to design at least one game. Yeah, still haven't done that. So I got a lot of things cooking, but
Over
just
3.
not on paper. And I did attend one convention last year. That was Origins with Chris. So I get a check mark for that one. And then continue to build the local board game community in the area. We've been doing board game nights now last Friday of the month at our church and going on 18 months, I think. So we've been continuing to do that. So that's been great. So I feel like I should get a check mark for that one. But yeah, I don't know 400 games. What was I thinking? Jeez.
Pete, did you have some?
Yeah, well, I joined the podcast. It was, I think around February or March of this year, last year actually. So I had made some challenges for myself before joining the group here. So the first one here, I'm going to say, yeah, everybody's going to go, but the first thing was play 10 with friends, 10 games. And that was with, all four of us, and actually including Dave. So I had 10 games that we all had played. And this was before I joined the podcast. So, things that had obviously jumped way up, but that was something that I had earlier. Early on, I had 20 new games, not quite the challenge that, David had, but I did meet that goal. I had a 20 by 5 challenge that I did succeed in. It came down to the wire at the end of the year. Dave actually helped me. And I kind of agree with you, it's nice to have these goals because it kind of pushes you a little bit, and I kind of like it, but I'm not going to make these goals. If I miss by one game or two, that's fine. It's just a target area. The other thing I had was the 25 by 4 games, which I thought would be a little bit more easier to attain, just because when we play our games, we usually get a number of plays in. So I thought that was more obtainable. They're both still 100 plays when you get down to it, whether it's 20 by 5 or 25 by 4. So that was really interesting the way that those worked out. So, I did have, to play 10 games with my son, Owen. We played 1. So that was a swing and a miss. And one of my goals early on was to play, Dave, our other 5th Meeple, was to play 120 games with him, because I do a lot of gaming with him as well. So the last thing that I had was to replay 7 old favorites. And those were games that I hadn't played in 2 years. So the games that I owned that I played before, and that was one of the options there on the challenges on the BG, app. So.
And did you do it?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many of those went to auction after?
Actually, I think I got them all.
That's why we had to play Vindication. Pete's like, I haven't played that in 2 years.
Yeah, that might have been one
That's
of
why
them.
you got Guru up for sale.
So, yeah, that was fun to do the challenges. I did set some new challenges for this year as well. Chris, you had mentioned your H index. Mine's at 17.
Yeah, that's where mine is. It's sitting at 17.
No. I also weed out the games that I play often at work, because we played like 5 games of No Thanks yesterday. So
yeah, I don't weed anything out, and I'm going to, now that we've recorded this, as soon as we're done, I'm going to click on BG Sats to say count my board game arena plays, and then my H index is going to go up a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Because I'm playing a lot more online, as we've talked, so I might as well count them.
Yeah.
All right. So how about for 2025? Has anybody thought about maybe just brushing up on some of these goals, or have new goals? David, what do you got?
I'm just going to have one goal this year since I have a kid. For those who don't know, I do have another kid on the way. So Yeah, I know. Surprise.
Wow.
Just shocking.
Congratulations,
Yeah.
man.
Thanks. Yeah. I thought I'd do it on the podcast, announce it. No, August 1st. So yeah, good times ahead. So my goal is to play at least 25% of my collection. So for those of you who don't know,
That's not happening.
I recently just passed 1,000 games. So I'm at 1,042 and I played 17% of my games that I collect. So my goal is to get that number to 25% by the end of the year. And I could do that a couple different ways. I could sell some games and bring that number down. I know there's a lot of laughter in this room. Or, I could play games, but it will prevent me from adding maybe as many games as I do. Because I play a lot, but my number doesn't tend to go up as high as I'd want because
you buy a
constantly
lot too.
adding. So
yeah. Okay, so you don't have to play 25% of your collection this year, but get to
yeah,
where
overall,
you have played up to
25%.
25%.
Yes,
okay.
that's my goal. I think it's achievable.
Chris?
I have set absolutely nothing for myself, and I think it partly because, well, two things. Number one, what I mentioned that, hey, some of these I am very driven. I can be a little bit obsessive. And if I put a goal out in front of myself, I'm going to do it. Mm-hmm. And so again, that 20 by 5 became work. Yeah. And I don't want my hobby to become work. So I want to avoid that. The other thing is I put a limit on how many games I could buy last year. And that made me sad. I did it. What it did, it kept me from buying games that oh man, I played it once and it was awesome and then I never played again. Uh-huh. So it did make me think very, very closely about what I bought, but I don't know. I don't want to have limits.
No, I hear what you're saying because one of my bigger hobbies in this board gaming is reading, and I set a goal last year to read a certain amount of books. I hit that goal and I exceeded it, but then I came into 2025 and I said, I'm going to read 52 books, it's one a week or whatever for this year, mainly because I don't want to be pressed and rushed to do something that I like to do. I want to do it on my own time, on my own dollar, and just enjoy that hobby that I have without feeling that pressure and the constraints of, oh my gosh, I got to get this book done, or I'm listening at, I'm reading at 3 a.m. and I'm not going to sleep. So, I'm kind of in the
December
same,
31st.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you, Chris. I'm going to think through this a little bit more. I don't really have any written down at this point, but I think just keeping it loose and enjoying, as long as I'm here and I'm enjoying it still, I mean, that's a good enough goal for me.
I added a few goals for this year, or a few challenges from the BG app. One of the ones I was kind of excited about, they had a statistic there where you can play a certain range of games. So I have one goal that is to play games that are rated 250 or lower. So basically the top 250 games, I wanted to try to play those 12 times. So one per month basically is my goal. Actually, so far I've played 4 of them, just surprisingly. That's as of what's today. So, I played quite a few of them so far. The other thing I had was, I upped my 20 new games to 30 new games. I think we'll hit that just, from, doing the podcast. And I did only do a 20 by 4 challenge again this year. The 25 by 5 was a little bit too much. So I went with those.
All right. All really good stuff. All right. So those are our thoughts and updates on our 24 goals and where we're at, and kind of some of our 25 goals and non-goals. But we'd love to know what all you guys have out there to say. So let us know by sending us an email. Maybe let us know what some of your goals are. We'd love to share them too. You can email us at thefifthmeeple@gmail.com. You can follow us on social media, our BGG Guild, or check out our website at thefifthmeeple.com. And before you forget, why not hit the subscribe button so you never miss a show? If you want to help us grow, one of the best ways is to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And if you do, we just might read it on a future episode. And finally, as always, thank you so much for listening. Well, guys, we got lots to confess, so let's get right into our first love affair. We are going to go through our top 3. So let's start with our number 3. Chris, why don't you hit us? Who's your crushing on?
Yeah, my first crush is actually a game I have never played in person. I've only ever played it on Board Game Arena, so this is kind of like online dating for me, I guess. But I have played it a lot, like we're online all the time. 379 times since the first time I played it. So, and again, all online. My number 3 cardboard crush right now is Can't Stop Express. And I'd honestly call this more of an activity than a game, at least for me, the way I play it, especially because I play it almost exclusively one player, and it's just to pass the time. It's a great option for a quickie. I can finish a game on BGA typically 3 to 4 minutes. I usually just play it as a time killer, multiple times in a row, but I have fun doing it. I have more puns in here than I thought. I didn't even realize that they're just coming out.
Oh, jeez.
In Can't Stop Express, you roll 5 dice, you set one aside, and you put the other 4 in 2 sets of 2, add up the total, mark off the numbers. And then the interesting thing is that the first time you mark a number, you actually score negative 200 points. And you don't get that even to 0 until you mark that same number 5 times, and then you start to get positive points after that. A 2 scores you 100 points when you finally get to that positive. A 7 only scores you 30 because of how common they are. And so it's a push your luck game. Am I going to start this number? Do I think I can finish it? The die you put aside, you also mark off, and once you get 3 numbers, those are the only dice you can set aside at that point, so it starts to limit your options. Once you set aside a number 8 times, the game ends for you. It is a multiplayer game, if you want to play it that way. If so, everybody plays every roll, so you're not taking turns, you roll the dice, everybody does what they want to do. Most points wins, or if you're playing alone, you win if you end up with positive points. Honestly, I can't imagine ever wanting to play this in real life. I mentioned online dating. It's like, I guess it's like that online thing that if you actually met the person, you wish you just stayed online. But I don't think I want to play this. Too many options, likely too much time to get to the decision point. But online for me, it's a great way to kill a few minutes, with what's a really simple push your luck game. But I've had a lot of fun. A lot of the push your lucks, again, whether you start a new line, balancing scores, etc. I don't usually like push your luck games, but this one's pretty good. I typically play it in waves. I'll play it a bunch, and then I won't play it at all. Right now I'm back hot and heavy with this one, so Can't Stop Express, my 3rd biggest cardboard crush right now.
All right, so you love it, but you're not committing to it.
Oh, I will not commit to this now, and eventually I'll just kick it aside, but then I'll come crawling back at some point.
How does this compare to Can't Stop? I don't think I've ever played the Express version.
You're rolling dice and you're pairing them together. To me, that's the connection to Can't Stop.
Okay.
But beyond that, it's quite different.
Okay. Interesting.
All right, great. Thanks, Chris. Pete, what's your number 3?
All right. Well, my number 3 is a game called Kalis. Now, this is a older classic type game. It's one of the games that kind of put worker placement in the forefront of gaming. I know it's not the original one, but it really did popularize that. I actually bought the newest version, which was, I think it's Kalis 1303. And that game is a little bit more friendly. And as you guys know, listening to this, I had to also get the older version, which is a little bit more cutthroat. And playing this game, I've done this a number of times with Dave. You guys haven't played it yet, but this is a game where you're doing a worker placement and there's kind of this road to the castle, and the farther you go out, you're getting resources, but there's I forget what they call it, a provost and a bailiff or whatever. And there's a place where if you go out too far, you don't get those resources at all. And the other players can really influence how far that bailiff goes and the provost goes. So they can actually really mess you up, and, you can go out for the newer resources, which are a lot better than the resources closer to home. So it's really a fun game of, how far do you want to try to push it? Are you working with people to maybe not work together? I like the interaction of the game. So this is one that I really enjoy. I think we should get it to the table. It's a classic for a reason, and I've really been enjoying playing these older games, even though Grand Austria Hotel broke my heart yesterday when we played, and I did so poorly on that game. So I'm not sure that one's going to get a call up anytime soon, but maybe it will.
Yeah, Kalis actually came up in a conversation. I do curling on the weekends, and one of the guys I was curling against.
Not with weights, with like the thing.
No, I definitely don't do it with weights. This is pushing rocks on ice, throwing rocks at houses. But one of the guys I was curling against, I've also done a little bit of board gaming with as well, and he was telling me about, he just got Kalis 1303, the newer version, and he said he really liked it.
Yeah.
I've certainly heard it. I've never played it, but heard good things about it.
Let's get it to
the
the table.
1303 like the year? Is that what it's referencing?
Yeah,
okay.
it's basically the theme of it was, I think the original one was like back in 1298 or something like that.
So a few years later.
A few years later, yeah. They friendlied up the game a little. I mean, there's still that provost and that, but it's not as cutthroat, and they changed the resources around because you're actually getting resources, and you use your workers as those resources, where the original one uses coins, which I really like, because in order to place a worker out, you have to spend a coin. So I just like that, and money's tight, and I just enjoy the older version. This is one where I'd say I like the older version, but the newer version is still good.
Okay.
What throws me off on Kalis, I'm a Star Trek fan, and there's a Kalis the Unforgettable mythical character in Klingon legend. So every time I hear Kalis, I assume it's a Star Trek game that I look and say, no, it's not. So
yeah.
All right, aside over.
All right, David, let's hit us with your number 3 crush.
Yeah, so for my crushes this year, I have high expectations because I looked at my last year's list, and my number 3 last year was Sky Team, and it's probably in my top 50 still. So I have high expectations,
50.
and I'll kind of go through them. But number 3 this year is a game called CDSK. It was created in 2023. It's a trivia game, and it plays like 2 to 16 players, designed by Vincent Berger. You might be asking yourself, that's probably the worst name you could ever give a game. It's CDSK. What does that even stand for? And it stands for Curious, Delightful, Seasoned, and Knowledge. And each one of those are categories in the game. So how the game kind of works is you're on a space, you're either playing by yourself or on a team. And as you move across the board, each space represents one of those categories. So for Curious, it's about very precise or bizarre subjects. For Delightful, it's about movies, music, or sports. For Seasoned, it's about grown-up stuff or the school of life. And for Knowledge, it's science, nature, and geography. So as you're picking a card up here, somebody will read you the card. And kind of how this game works is they'll say, how much do you know about rocks? And you have to give a number between 1 and 10 about how much you think you know about rocks. 10 being you know rocks really well, 1 being you know nothing about rocks other than they're hard pieces of dirt. And so how the game works is...
So you're a 1 then.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So as you're reading through this, the person will go to that card, they'll read the question on whatever number you chose. And so if it's a 1 through 4, a lot of times they're multiple choice. Sometimes they're even true false, so they're 50%. Sometimes they're not, but a lot of times they are. As you get harder questions, you have to answer them. And then based off that number, that's how many spaces on the board you move. So if you get that answer correct, you move that many spaces. And then there's also spots on the board where you can get a challenge question. And these challenge questions come up, and there'll be like a list of like name 1990 Disney movies, and as many Disney movies as you can name in like 20 seconds. You know, somebody will start a timer, and as many as you name, that's how many spaces you move. And so, you know, this game, that's how it's kind of played. It's a really fun game. You know, I played it a lot during the holidays with people. It feels really fresh kind of in that category, because you don't necessarily have to know anything about that subject that comes up, and you might not. And so you're going to choose something easier. Sometimes, I think they even had questions about modern board games in here too. And so I went like with an 8 on that one, and that was really fun. There's just a lot you could do here. I think it's probably feels the freshest kind of in that genre since I probably played Wits and Wagers, which has been a while. But I remember when Wits and Wagers came out, I kind of felt the same way about that game. So if you played that game, you might want to check out this game called CDSK. The biggest con though is that you tend to try to pick the easiest questions, so then you're at least moving every time and you get multiple choice stuff. So I'd like to see something where you have to pick at least one hard question every game in order to win the game. But it's a lot of fun. And you know, that's kind of my number 3 crush right now. I have a lot of fun with it. So yeah.
I really need to play that.
just because of the Disney things? Or?
No, because like I love that kind of trivia stuff.
Yeah, I like trivia games too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could play it sometime.
We should break it out.
It's fun.
Yeah.
You know about rocks. I know about other things. No, that sounds awesome. All right. My number 3 is...
Oh, you ranked them?
I'm rolling my eyes for those that can't see. I just did rank them. Okay. I put these in order. So yeah, my number 3 is The Pursuit of Happiness. So this is a game in which you take a character from birth and you live the life you always wanted using a worker placement mechanism with time as your workers. And you take on projects, you get jobs, you buy items, you establish relationships, and you raise families. It's kind of like the game of life, and it's like really the possibilities are endless as it's laid out on the table. It's very bright, colorful. It's really cool how they use time with it. What I kind of liked about this was I played this with David and his wife, and she beat the living daylights out of us. So she has a wonderful life right now, and we're suffering. But I guess again, she's pregnant. Dave's not pregnant, but yeah, that's great. So she probably picked the right cards for that. But I think that I loved life growing up. I liked the game of it. David kind of introduced this game to us as kind of a more in-depth game of life where you can do just so much more. I really enjoyed the player interaction that we had when we played this. We looked at the cards, we laughed, we mocked each other. We kind of like just went on and on about just the dating pool that you had, you know, two sides, this guy and girl, and kind of was like, I'm not dating that guy just because you didn't want to, not because it was worth any points or anything. But, I would recommend playing this game with, a fun group, a group that's imaginative. It's not a real crunchy worker placement, but a minimal, like it's really, you're trying to live and have less stress in this game. And then you're trying to manage your life in that aspect as well. So I honestly didn't even care that I lost. I thought you felt accomplished at the end of the game, I'll say. And so, I actually really did like this. I'd like to get this to the table just as a lighter game, just to kind of breeze through and just, again, have a good time and laugh. It's more of a, I don't know if you'd call it not a party game, but it's a worker placement, but it's enjoyable. It's not very thinky.
Yeah. Stress will kill you in this game.
Stress will kill you in real life too.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with the movie eyes.
No.
I've seen that before, and I think of that every time. And I say it can't have anything to do with that.
No.
Which it doesn't.
So. All right. Let's head on and transition to our second love affairs. We're just going to keep going in the same order. Chris.
Okay. My second crush is a lot heavier. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Hot and heavy.
Yeah. It's actually really heavy. It's a co-op game, but surprise, surprise, I play it solo, which is actually quite common with this game. My number 2 cardboard crush right now, it may not be my soulmate, but it is my Spirit Island. Yeah, Spirit Island. Spirit Island turns colonization games on their heads. Instead of trying to colonize an island or an area, you play as one of many asymmetric spirits, and you're fighting back against the invaders that are exploring, building, and ravaging the island that you call home. Your actions are determined by cards that you play each turn, most of which have an energy cost to them. The number of cards you can play each turn, as well as the amount of energy that you get each turn, is determined by your player board, and you unlock more of that by adding your spiritual presence from that player board onto the island. And that also determines where your powers can be applied and things along those lines. Some cards take place quickly, before the invaders take their turn, which they do every round, and then others happen afterwards. So each round the invaders explore new areas, they build towns or cities, wherever it is that they explored last round, and then they ravage the areas where they previously built. And your job is to control their expanse, limit the damage that they do to the island, and just scare the heck out of them, causing them eventually to flee if you can do that. The theme is great. All the spirits are different and very different in how they play. Once you're comfortable with the base game, maybe things are starting to get a little dull. You can spice it up a little bit. Not necessarily role-playing game, but you can break out a scenario that changes how you win. Adversaries that take more actions in different ways. You can tune it to the level of difficulty you want, depending how adventurous you want to be. And then you break out the expansions with events, new spirits, and other mechanisms. It's a brain burner. I'll probably get burned out on it right now, though. It's really caught my eye. We're having a great time together. It's Spirit Island, my second biggest cardboard crush.
Yeah, you've talked about this quite a lot, so I feel like you have to get this to the table. I'm not sure if I'm a candidate for this game, but I know you are crushing on it.
This is one game that the other friend I play with, Bob, Dave, and I play with him. This is on our short list to play, so I think next month we're going to be trying to get that to the table. We were going to try to do it right after the New Year's, but he thought it was just a little bit heavy. I know there's a lot of asymmetrics, and that's one of the good things about the game. So you don't have that one person alpha gaming on it, that you really have to pay attention to what you're doing, even though you're working together. But it's too much for one person to handle.
Yeah, and there's different complexity. Again, if you're playing it for the first time, you could play a low complexity spirit, but maybe if someone is at risk of being an alpha gamer, give them a high complexity spirit, so they really have to concentrate, on what they're doing. Looking for, like you said, alpha gaming does that. I don't think doesn't happen very often because of you got to take care of your own stuff.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to playing this one.
Yeah, Chris, I played this game about 4 years ago. My mistake was me and my friend, we decided to bust this game out at like 10 o'clock at night. And so it's a pretty heavy game. So I think by the time we finished, it was like 3 a.m, and I think it burned out our brain. So I've actually never pulled it back out, but it would be interesting to explore it again.
Yeah, games for me have been taking one to two, typically 1 hour, but when I played two-handed solo, it got a little heavier, and then that one took a little longer. It depends. You can sit there in AP for as long as you want, staring at your cards, decide, okay, how do I make this happen?
I need the invitation immediately. If we're going to do
that bad. It's not that bad.
It's not that bad, Danielle.
We'll start with 2 players, Chris. Just you and I. Okay.
I've only played 2 players or one.
Oh, okay.
I've never played more than that. So I'm kind of curious to see when you get, again, I think theoretically you take your turn simultaneously and you can put things together and
Maracaibo, I was thinking, was the other game that you guys took forever on.
Yeah, I don't think it's a Maracaibo because to me it shouldn't take longer for multiple players, maybe a little bit.
Gotcha.
But theoretically it's not going to take 4 times as long for a 4-player game.
Okay. Pete, what do you got for your number 2 crush?
All right. Well, my number 2, I picked up at my local game store. They were having a sale Christmas time. They had a half price off. So there was a game called Lewis and Clark. Again, this is going back a little bit. Another classic game. This is one of the race games where you're trying to get, from St. Louis out to, the Pacific West Coast. And it's a card management game. So you have your deck of cards. You have like 8 cards. The fun thing about this is like we talked about some games where you play down the card, but you also have to power that card, and the cards have a value on the back of them, or you can power them with Indians. It is really themed, early American. They have Indians, and the cards are actually all unique. There's a lot of history with them, with actual characters that were in the early, expedition areas. So each card is unique, and they have a lot of flavor text with it. So what you're trying to do though is you're trying to get, again, from St. Louis out to the Pacific West Coast, but you're managing your resources, and you add these cards to your resources, and then you have a movement phase. And as you move up the river, you're moving your whole crew up there. But at the end of the phase, when you have to pull all your cards back, there's a penalty that if you haven't efficiently used all those cards, you actually move back. So there was the original game had that mechanic where you move back. Well, at the game store, they also had the newer version, which uses time instead. So you never really move backwards, but you get these time tokens. You have to use those up first as your first movement. In essence, this is a race game. It's trying to get to the end. As you're going up the river, there's the river movement that you have, and then there's mountains that you have to move over. So the cards that you play, you have to have the right components to get through it. It's a really fun game. I've been enjoying it. I think this is one of the games where I think I like the newer version actually better, unlike Kalis, where I like the older version better. I just think it really did clean up the gameplay a little bit with that mechanism moving back and forth. So this is one that I've been enjoying. I don't know how long I'm going to enjoy it, because there is an aspect of the race game where somebody gets ahead. It's very hard to catch up to them, unless if they make, a mistake.
Interesting. So, that kind of sounds like Quest for El Dorado. So interesting. Maybe
that was
or something.
One that I was thinking about. It might be a good one to pair up with. The themes very similar, and there's that push to get to the end of the, your goal.
So I went down a rabbit hole. We're talking about crushes, and this is the second one. He said this is kind of an old one, and so I started looking, what's it called with a guy that just chases old ones around? But I couldn't. Does anybody know what that would be? I mean, it's not robbing the cradle. It's doing exactly opposite.
Old women.
Well, it's like the opposite of a cougar. Well, but it's not a cougar, right? It's the opposite. He's chasing the old women. So I don't know. I couldn't find it. Oh. So you're not robbing the cradle. You might be robbing.
Looking for.
I don't know, the wheelchairs.
Robbing the wheelchair.
I don't know about that.
The grave.
Robbing the walker. You're robbing the walker. That's going on. Okay.
David, what is your second crush of tonight?
So my second crush, it's got a lot to live up to, because last year I was El Grande, which was my number 4 game of all time. So see, my crushes, they tend to become love affairs. But anyways, my number 2 game right now, I have high hopes for this one. It's SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Life. It was in 2024, signed by Thomas Holek, I'll call him. And basically what this game is there's a lot of different things. You're trying to search for alien life out into the universe, and there's a lot of different ways you can go do it, but the crux of it is you have actions that you can take. You also have a bunch of multi-use cards that you can interact with, and you're trying to find these aliens that are out there. But really what you're trying to do is just score points. It's kind of like a big point salad. It takes kind of the best things about what I like about Lost Ruins of Arnak. It takes like all the good things from that game, and it combines them, I feel like, a little bit with Brass Birmingham, and the fact that like the game changes about halfway through when the alien races are discovered, and you can tend to go after those alien race points. You don't have to. I don't actually know if that's always a winning strategy, but there's a lot to explore there if you want to go after the alien races when they're discovered, and because they give you a bunch of points if you interact with them. Or you could just keep interacting with the base game. Maybe you built up a lot of great probes that are circling the Earth and the planets out there, and you can score a lot of points just doing that. So I feel like there's so much agency in this game. It feels a lot like Lost Ruins in the fact of, you're going to keep playing until you want to stop or you have to stop because you don't have enough resources to continue on. And normally the person who's passing first gets an advantage because they get to look at cards to take one in their hand. And then, the next person that passes, they'll get a card and so forth. So there is some advantages always to passing, but you can kind of build up big rounds or have shorter rounds. The one aspect of the game that I don't know right now, kind of some cons potentially of it, is that it feels like it's a little bit long for what it is, but that's because I think there's a lot of symbology. I do think the player aid, though, is really great on this game. It's kind of like more of like a booklet, but almost every symbol that you're looking for is in there, which is actually really nice because I hate when they give you player aids and they're missing like half the symbols, so you still have to go to the rule book. But yeah, I'm really excited to explore this game more. It takes two of the games that I really love. I feel like it takes the best mechanics out of both of them and it switches the game about halfway through, kind of like Brass Birmingham does. And I really love that mechanic in that game, where basically it kind of resets it or lets people maybe get back into the game at that point and kind of how you did in the first half of it. So, and then with the mechanics of Lost Ruins. So if you like Lost Ruins, but you maybe think that it's feeling a little samey or there's, a certain path to victory, I feel like with this game so far, I haven't seen that. And I've seen other people that are way further ahead in plays kind of saying the same thing out there. So I'm excited to keep exploring because I think there's a lot of good stuff in this one. So excited.
So I've only played this game once. That was with you. It was on this table. I have not stopped thinking about it since. For two reasons. Number one, I enjoyed the heck out of it and look forward to getting it again. I actually went to buy it that night. Saw it was like $90, decided I didn't need it that bad. David's got it. But the other reason I haven't stopped thinking about it is it took us like almost 4 hours to play that game. It was three. I just looked up.
But it was our first time. Yeah.
It was our first time. Man, that was a long game.
Yeah.
But I can't wait to play it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was a brain burner for me. To David's point, I kind of ignored those aliens at the top because that's a whole other aspect of the game when it comes out. I think the base was really good, but it was very long. I would like to play it 3-player, honestly, and get a couple more plays in like back to back, honestly, and keep exploring and understanding. Cause there were a couple things, David, to your point that when we started, we didn't realize we weren't doing a couple things correctly, which is great. You got to shake some of that stuff out and make sure, we're reading the rule book correctly. But all that was interesting. I think it is going to be an interesting game. I'm just not sure I want to play it at 5 cause I'm not sure it's going to be,
does it play 5?
It only goes to 4,
okay.
So we'd have to figure that out.
4 was about an hour a person, and you know me, and it was a long game. So go ahead, Dave, Pete.
I was just going to say, so my question to you guys, because I haven't played it yet, does it feel long or was it just long?
Honestly, both. I thought it was really long, but like I was looking at the clock going, oh my gosh, we're on hour 3. But it wasn't horrible playing it. Like it wasn't.
Sometimes turns could take a while.
Yeah.
Sometimes turns could take a while. I am excited to keep continuing to explore this one though. I think that the hype was out there and I was like, is it going to really live up to it? And then I kind of felt like Chris, after that first play, I'm like, I need to get this back to the table. I've since played it one time solo, just kind of keep exploring. I heard that there's an expansion coming out because there's only 5 aliens in the game. So I think once you see them all, you might, even though they're flipped over, so you don't know which ones you're getting, but I think, there's going to be more variety there.
And if it takes off, they could do expansion after expansion just of aliens.
Yeah.
So, and there's probably there would be fan.
Oh yeah.
Expansions as well.
Expansions for sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. All right. So my number 2 love affair is going to be Break the Code. So Break the Code is a logical deduction game played with number tiles and question cards. So you win if you can guess all of your opponent's tiles in a 2-player game, or if you can guess the face down tiles in the center for a 3 or 4-player game. So what you do is you place all the numbered tiles face down and you shuffle them, and then you place your game screen in front of you. So this is a very small game. It's not a big game at all. You then randomly take your tiles and then place them face up behind your screen in numerically ascending order starting from the left. So if you have 2 tiles with the same number, you place the black tile on the left. There's a whole set of rules on how you place them in front of you. And so once you have your tiles placed, you remove any unused number tiles from the game. And then lastly, there's a bunch of question cards. So you shuffle those, you place them in the center, you place them face down, and then you draw 6 out. And as it goes around the table, you can grab one of those cards and then you ask your opponents the question on one of those. So you're trying to guess their colors, and the numbers in order from left to right. And so what I liked about this game is I'm very much a deduction person. I like mystery. I like solving riddles, crimes, all that kind of stuff. It's kind of like the books I like to read. But it's a small box. I think this is a good filler game. It was 25 minutes-ish. It's not the most fancy game, like some people were comparing this to, I think, Turing Machine. It's not all that, but it's very straightforward. To me, this was a solid deduction game. Again, straightforward. And I can't speak to player count, but we played 3. So it was Chris, myself, and David that played this. It seemed like a good fit. Also, I won, so that was great as well. But it was very interesting. I can see for some people how it would be. I don't know how to make this deduction from this card. Like their personal player chart in front of them could probably get pretty messy if you're not an organized person, and how you're reading the clues and how you're asking the questions. But overall, yeah, this was a really good game for me. And again, these are my type of games. This is my bread and butter.
Yeah, it's also called Tag Iron. I think it came over from like Korea or Japan, but it's Break the Code in America. But yeah, I like this game too. It's straight to the point. It's pure deduction and plays in about 15 minutes. It's nice.
Well, yeah. We took 10 minutes more.
Yeah. The only thing I didn't like about it, and I think this is just how these games are, if you make one mistake at some point and you interpret one thing one way, you're never going to win that game. It's like that's part of what deduction is, I guess. But I remember that happened to me. It's like, oh shit, I misinterpreted something. Yeah. And from that point on, there's no recovering from that, because you don't realize you did it. And unless you realize you misinterpreted something, and then it's too late. So you're kind of out and you're done. And so probably not my favorite game, but it wasn't that long either, and I think we had fun doing it.
Yeah, so. But the look on your face when you thought you had it.
I know.
I know.
It's like, how can that not be? It's all because I misinterpreted something. But that's the game, and then I failed. So
yeah,
stupid game.
All right, our first love affair, the one that is on tops for all of us, the one that we are dying to get under. Chris is sweating over here. He is like so excited to tell us what his number one is. Let's see what it is.
Okay. This one is a game. It first caught my eye at Origins last year. I saw it and I was like, oh man, that looks nice. And I kept coming back just to sneak another look at it, but I'm an introvert, so I never really worked up the confidence to go
shy boy.
And give it a shot. But David was there. He's my wingman, and he saw what was happening.
This was 1880?
No, it definitely wasn't 1880. That would be Pete's, because he likes them all. So
kill Dr. Lucky.
No. But David saw what was happening, and you guys ended up setting me up for my birthday. Thank you again for all of that. So my number one cardboard crush is Blueprints of Mad King Ludwig. It's a flip and write game, shares the same theme and DNA of Castles of Mad King Ludwig, but against the flip and write. And there are some different aspects to it. Each round is a series of cards that come out into a market. You draft one, you draw it in your castle with these vellum sheets. You slide the card underneath using colored pencils. The room connection mechanics, same thing as what you would see in Castles of Mad King Ludwig. And just like Castles, when you connect all the doors of a room, you get a bonus depending on the type of room it is. When I first I thought, man, it looks complicated to make connections here. It turns out it's not. Really well designed, well put together, as expected, from Ted Alspach. Once you get the hang of the rules, it's relatively straightforward to draft and draw. The castles, when you're done, are absolutely gorgeous, especially for like my daughter, Julia. She takes her time. She makes them look really nice. And it really clicks a lot of boxes for me. I really enjoyed it. It's not perfect. It's a bit of a point salad. David, you played it with me once, and it's okay. Now the next 20 minutes, we're just going to add points up for everything, right? The utility rooms, in this case, the cards get a bit out of hand really fast if you get a lot of utility rooms. The secret passage rules confuse me, every time I play them. And I haven't done it yet, but when you run out of these vellum sheets, the only way to continue to play is to buy more vellum sheets. You can only get them through their website. It's like $15 or something. So, it becomes an expensive crush after a certain point in time. I may just have to dump it. But in the end, it's solid. It's fun. I mentioned Julia. She's one semester away from her architecture degree. So that's a cool link for her as well. When she got back to college, there was actually a copy waiting for her, so she could continue to play it. That's Blueprints of Mad King Ludwig. It's my number one cardboard crush. And, other than the cost, if I can keep up with the cost, I think this one's going to last.
I haven't played that one, but I played the regular Castles of Mad King, and I really, really like that game a lot. So I'll have to get this one. But it sounds like there's a lot of frustration there, Chris.
I don't know if there's frustration. I didn't buy it at the time because, I mean, right now you can get it for $50 on Amazon. I feel like it was $80 or something on Origins. It was like, I can't afford, to do that. I could, but I'm not going to. I refuse to do that.
Yeah. Jay, we need the hookup.
Yeah. And then again, the one thing I'm not too sure about is the fact that, hey, there's only a certain number of sheets. I don't know how many because they don't tell you how many sheets come with it. It's just, you get a pad. Well, it's a vellum sheet. You got to be able to see through it. So the copy you can't see through it. Okay. So I see a lot of people they're laminating them and then using wet erase markers and all that. I'll probably just spend the $15. But again, you got to get it from their website. You can't go to Amazon and get it. So
gotcha.
And so that part might be a little irritating for me, but I really enjoyed the game. David, I didn't get the feel that maybe you did enjoy it.
My buildings look like blobs of paint. I think, I don't know. I didn't really like Castles of Mad King Ludwig. It's not really my style. This one felt a lot of the same. So if you like that, I can see why you really love this game. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not good at drawing and I'm not good at putting together crazy castle rooms. So, but yeah, I can see why you like this one though.
Okay. So sure. I should not feel threatened from you then for this crush.
This one's all yours.
I do got a question for you though. With those sheets, are they, I know a lot of the flip and write and the draw and write games are smaller sheets. Are these bigger, like 8.5 by 11, or
no,
are they
these are
like
probably not quite. I think they're probably 5 by 7.
5 by 7.
If I had to guess, yeah, I don't have them with you. It might be 4 by 6, but it's somewhere in that kind of range. It's probably half of a regular sheet of paper.
Okay,
Pete's mind's cooking.
Yeah. Well, I was just kind of getting a gauge of how much space it takes, and that it looks like it's a smaller game. So I was just curious on that because I know when we do play Mad King Ludwig, you're spread out.
Yeah, that part isn't bad, but then you get like 57 utility cards that you got to somehow manage in your hand as you start to build those. So that takes a little bit of space, but no, it doesn't take up too much space.
Cool.
Okay.
Cool.
Pete, your number one.
My number one, I have to give David credit for he introduced me to this one. Okay. Yeah.
Ooh, I wonder what it is.
You wonder what it is? You're looking at my notes over here. So, it was, I think it was a couple months ago, we played Brian Boru.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Who's he?
Who is it? He is the king of Ireland, I think it is. This is actually I've been loving this game. When we talk about Cardboard Crushes, there it is. Yeah. Nice one there.
Nice shot.
This is a drafting, trick taking, and area control game. Now, area control isn't one of my most favorite mechanics, but I really enjoy it here. The way that you play it, first of all, you have to draft, and there's 25 different cards. So based upon the number of players, you're going to get a hand of cards. So you might have 6 or 7 based upon the number of players. There is only numbers 1 through 25, and there's different colors for them. There's 3 different colors. There's yellow, red, and blue.
Blue and gray.
And then there's some wild cards that are in there too, and the wild cards are trump. So with this game, who's ever leading, they're going to pick an area to fight over for on the map. And the map's divided up, I think it's 10 different regions, and in each region there's a different number of cities, and each one of those cities have a different color. So when you go to conquer a city, you have to use a card that you drafted to try to get the highest number. If you get the highest number, you do what's on the top of the card, which basically is you conquer the city. The higher the card number is, the more it's going to cost you. So you might have to pay money. But if you use a low card and actually win, you may get some back. Now, the other good thing about this game, which is really what makes it fantastic, I think, is you may not always want to win the trick, and you don't have to follow suit. So when you play a card that has a low value, or if you don't win the trick, you get one of the 2 options that are at the bottom of the card, and that can give you a lot of different bonuses to go up the 3 different, I'll call it the 3 different tracks. There's the marriage track, there's you're fighting Vikings, so you're trying to fight them off, or you go into the church and you pay alms or whatever it is. So as you do those, you get different benefits for them. The play in it is awesome. I taught this my buddy Bob and another guy that he had come over when we played our gaming session, and they just really enjoyed it. It's easy to learn, very simple, great, just options, because you may have the bid and you can pick an area that you don't want to win. So you might play a super low card, but other people around the table may not want to fight for that area, or maybe they're going after something different. I actually won one of the areas with, I think it was a 2 card, which was, like the lowest card there was. They just didn't want to get it. So not only did I win the city, but I got a lot of resources for it. It's just really fantastic. Love the game. And as you're going through the different, there's usually, I think, 3 or 4 different, rounds that you have. And there's only, 6 or 7 times that you play. So, as you go around, you're always going to end with 1 card. So you're playing maybe 21 actions for this whole game, but it just goes so fast. It works really well. Really, really liking this card. David.
Yeah, I really like this game as well. It's designer's Pierre Sylvester, so he's the same designer who made The King is Dead. So I don't know if you played that, Chris, a little bit. I don't know if that's
it's funny you said that, because I looked at the back of the box. I said, that map looks exactly like The King is Dead. I'm out.
It's a good game. I like this game. It reminds me a little bit of El Grande, a little bit as far as the map, easy of play. You could teach it to almost anybody. I feel like this game is something that people can pick up pretty quick. So it's a lot of fun.
All right.
Well, we just took your crush and passed
Turning
it around.
tricks.
How you were talking about it. So Brian Boru, not to be confused with Buru.
That's correct. Yeah.
That's
Boru, not Buru.
Yeah. That's a redo.
Yeah.
Let's go over to David. Your number 1 crush. Where are you sitting at?
Yeah, so my number 1 crush has got a lot to live up to, because last year was Search for Planet X, which is actually my number 2 game of all time. So, I have high hopes for this one. This one is Leviathan Wilds. It's a 2024 game. It's designed by Justin Kapanian. I don't know how to say your last name because it's crazy, but it is a co-op where you're actually working with one other, I guess you could play up to 4 players, but normally one other player. And you are trying to go out there and you're removing these binding crystals from these giant leviathans that are out trying to destroy the world. And so kind of how this game works, the box is over there if you want to see it. But kind of how the game works is that there's a binder inside, like kind of like a flip binder. And so each page is one of the creatures. And so the cool thing about this game is it's a deck building game. You have your deck that you kind of have. It's not deck building, but you start with a deck for your character. They also have like a different ability. So you're adding a character plus an ability. So you can kind of mix and match classes, if that makes sense. And then you're using whatever that deck is to actually try to defeat this Leviathan. Each monster has their own deck, so they're all going to play very differently. The game comes with 17 different creatures, but kind of the hook is that all of these creatures, they kind of use height, which you don't really see in a lot of board games. So you're climbing up these creatures and you're trying to attack these crystals, which are in the form of dice. And so each one you have to go to that crystal on the location and you have to try to defeat it. But with your hand actually counts as grip. So if you ever run out of cards in your deck, you fall because you lose all your grip. And so that could be a good thing because you're going to fall down until you hit a ledge on the creature, or it could be a bad thing because you're at the top and you need to do stuff there. And if you run out of cards, you fall to the bottom and you have to climb all the way back up there. And so kind of how the game works is as you go through the rounds, the monster gets stronger and stronger because on each of his cards, it's double-sided. So basically, you'll flip over to a more powerful action. So each round, if you keep going in length, the monster gets stronger because they have, instead of a level 1 power, they all have their level 2 powers showing. And so each round, it'll get progressively harder. So you want to try to defeat these creatures faster, but it's just a fascinating game that they could take like kind of like a 2D model and make it so that height is a huge aspect of this game, and you could be falling in order to get, the cards back in your hand. You have to find a ledge on the creature so you can rest on that ledge to refresh yourself. But it's just a really cool game. I played it with my wife. We've taken on the first 2 creatures that are the easy ones and we defeated them, but they played vastly different. And so I'm excited to see all these other creatures that are going to be in this game. So really good game so far. Really excited to play more. So definitely a cool co-op.
Dang.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
So what I heard was you climb up these creatures and then you battle with their jewels.
Yes. So you have like seal cards that are basically like, it'll give you attack power. And so if it's like a 6 dice, you have to hit it for 6, for 6 actions. So, you have various attack cards that you're trying to kill them with, but they're trying to knock you down or kill you in other various means when you flip them over. But there's a lot of interaction because a lot of the cards you could dictate and help your partner, even though it's not your turn. So each card has a action on the very top. It's a number value of how many action points you get that round. So you could play for the action points. A lot of the highest ones are like 5, all the way down to 2. So that's like you can only do 2 different things. But on the bottom of each card, there's a skill that you can play. So if you don't use it for the action points, you can use it for the skill on the bottom of the card. A lot of those skills will help you jump or do various things, or also they'll help your partner. You know, you could push them somewhere else. You know, say you could play this on another climber or whatever the case is. So there's a lot of good interaction that you can network with. And it's kind of open-handed, so you're working together to kind of defeat these creatures. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. So
interesting. I kind of just looked it up. I've never seen anything like that. So
yeah, I've never seen anything as far as like it. And the setup's really easy because you're just flipping another page, and you're like, you don't have to go in order either. You can go any monster you want, or any Leviathan that you want, you can go. Cool. So it's not a campaign. But.
All right. Last, but certainly not least, my number 1. All right. So my number 1 right now is going to be Awkward Guests. So this game challenges you to use your detective abilities to solve each case. We're back to this deduction theme for me. And the key to solving the mystery plays out actually in the cards. So what you do is you have to interrogate suspects, you have to question the household staff, you have to examine the crime scene and search for clues around the Walton mansion, and then you consult the police report. So you do all of this while exchanging information with your opponents and the people sitting around the table with you, or hiding it from them. So you got to figure out who killed Mr. Walton, how he was murdered, how did the murderer kill him, and was there an accomplice? So I think the heart of this game is kind of simple. Players have a hand of 6 cards, and each card has a value of 1, 2, or 3 points according to the amount of information on that card that it provides, and then several references. So like one of the references could be so-and-so is with such and such during the murder. So you have kind of those cards in your hand, and it's a variety of different information pieces. And then during the turn, you ask for information about 2 different references in which you're interested in trying to find out who did what with where. And then, so like you could ask about, I want to know things about the shed, or I want to know things about the twins. And the rest of the players can offer you the cards that contain the requested references. And then you can trade for those cards by giving the offering players the same number of points that they have offered to you in your hand. So it sounds a little complicated, but after each round plays out, players can try and solve the mystery. If the mystery is not solved, players discard their cards. They get 3 new cards, and then the player who solves the mystery first wins. And you need the app to kind of play this game. And the setup and teardown of this is a little bit maddening. You've got quite a few decks of cards, over 100, and they're all numbered specifically. So when you generate a play, it tells you what number of cards you need and how to build the deck. But again, this is another deduction mystery game for me. These are, to me, challenges that go, again, it's kind of like the first Pursuit of Happiness that I talked about, like the Game of Life. This is like Clue, but it goes beyond a little bit further. I love the game boards in this. They're incredibly laid out. I think it was very nice in how the hallways work. It gives you great examples of how to mark your clues and how to keep track of them. Just annotate all your findings. And then what I liked about this game is that I think I played it too kindly at first. I think Pete was really playing. He was like really raw dog in this one. So, next time I think I won't be so nice and forthcoming with my clues, because people were asking me questions and I'm like, yeah, like, oh, you want to know about this? Here's that. And he definitely had way more clues he was not giving to us, because some of the clues circulated back to me 2, 3, and 4 times. And I was very angry about that. But by the time I got halfway through, I kind of understood that part of this mystery is by figuring out who you're playing with as well and what kind of clues they're going to give to you. But a really well laid out game. I thought it was really enjoyable playing it. I didn't think it was hard at all, which, you know me, I like that kind of game. We played it in about an hour, so I think it would play faster once you kind of get the hang of the game. Again, yeah, I don't know. I love these kinds of games. They really do it for me, and I thought this one was super interesting. Would like to pull it out and play with it.
Glad you liked it.
I think I haven't played this, so I can't comment on it. So.
You didn't play with us?
No, I did have an advantage on this since I did own the game, and I played it only 2 other times.
Now. You little Clue stealer.
Yeah, well, it is a lot better game than Clue. I think if you like Clue, this is one I think you want to look at. And as Daniela said, what you do is you can look up and you can either play with the app, or they actually have, I think, 10 different scenarios that you can do. But what you do is you take the numbered cards, and they may say take card number 1, card number 10, card number 12, and you go through. I think there's 250 or some cards on there.
Crazy.
And by combining all those cards, obviously there's some kind of magic that happens in the back that all of these cards work together and reference and have a solution. So what you're trying to do is you're exchanging those cards with you, where in Clue you would say, do you have, Mr. Green at the knife? This is another not an easier way, but I think it's a more unique way of exchanging that information. So not only are you asking, but you're getting stuff. And then after you understand how you can mark off areas and kind of eliminate suspects and the number of, clues that they are. We played the easy game, which we didn't have any, accomplices and, they can really level that up and make it very challenging game for you.
I think the top one is called like the perfect murder or something like that. So again, to your point, different levels. We started, I think, with beginner, and it was challenging, first playthrough.
Yeah.
I think me and Dave, we were lost the whole time. So I know you said it was easy, but it must have been hard for us because I remember Dave being like, I don't know how to fill in the sheet. And I was like, I don't either.
Well, he was keeping track. Sorry, Dave. He was keeping track of who gave him what cards and like way more information than needed to be kept track of, I thought.
Yeah, it could be. But anyways, we both lost by a lot, I think. So
yeah. Well, as I said, I think I had an advantage. I pretty much knew who the solution was. You guys, I don't think we're even close to that. But
no.
I had a good majority of the things filled out, but I was so far away from the weapon. I had nothing on the weapon on what it was. So yeah.
Good Pete stuff. Buried all those cards.
Yeah. Anyway. All right. Well, hopefully you guys will hear some of these on our upcomings. Does anybody have any honorable mentions that they want to go through, or something that's kind of still catching your eye a little bit? I know one for me is Grand Austria. That was a really interesting game. That was the first play for me that was coming out. So I'm looking forward to getting a lot more games played this year and seeing what else might be crushing on.
I'll just say some names. You can look them up, listeners out there. Flip 7, Castle Combo, Bomb Busters are probably next up in line. So if you're looking for interesting stuff, look those up.
Yeah, I enjoyed Flip 7. That was on my short list.
I just keep going back to the same ones. I'm back with Cascadia again. I started playing that a couple days ago, and we're just going at it.
All right.
Yeah. Those are called X's. We haven't had that episode
Tried
yet.
and true. Tried and true.
You keep playing that. I'm fine. She's all yours.
Well, folks, that brings us to the end of yet another episode of the Fifth Maple Board Game Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our crushes today. And if you'd like to get in touch, just email us at thefifthmaple@gmail.com or reach out to us on Facebook or Instagram. Thanks again for listening. And until next time, may you find a few good crushes, but one lifelong love. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening.
Adios.
All right, guys. So those are our thoughts.
What do you got over there?
Lucky.
Just playing with
It
balls.
was in Chris's
Playing with
cup.
balls over
It
there.
was in Chris's cup holder. Just one. Just one. Put 'em. You guys are making crap up.
So,
You guys, we
3, 2,
talked
1.
about this
Yes, we
last
did.
week.
We said, yeah,
and we
we
said
said-
we
I
weren't
thought we
going to
said
do them in
yes.
order. We were
We
just
said
going to do
yes.
order. Wait, are we still talking? Hottie hot hot. You guys feeling hot under the collar? Let's go.